All right. First and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and who is worthy to be counted for double honors. Peace and salutations to you brothers out there pushing this truth wholeheartedly and sincerely and for love of the gospel. It's the brother Gabaria from the Indiana camp coming back at you again with another sit down. All right. It's another addition to the etymology of words. All right. And this word I have today is going to be temperance. All right. The scriptures talks about temperance in Galatians, the 5th chapter, which we're going to get that, Lord willing, after this. But the word temperance, we're going to go right into it. All right. It says self-restraint. It says forbearance. It says moderation, sobriety, discretion, self-control. It says presence, particular, tempered, to moderate, see tempered. All right. Mildness or gentleness. All right. To observe of a balance of moderate courses of actions. See, let me see if it says anything else. It says, I mean, it really hit the point. So yeah, so we understand that temperance basically goes into self-restraint, sobriety, discretion, and self-control. All right. So basically means you have control over your emotions. All right. You have self-restraint. All right. Which means what you don't go out and do every little thing that you want, or just live in complete lust, or just live in complete like I feel like I want to do this. I feel like I want to do that. You have some type of control. All right. And also what it doesn't say here, temperance is also being balanced. All right. Which can go into control, because, it can go into control and self-restraint, but being temperance also can be balanced, goes into the word balance. All right. Let's look at the word tempered. All right. It says mixed or work up to proper condition, adjust or restore to proper proportions. Yep. It says to moderate by mixture, bring to a proper or suitable state, modify. It says restrain with due limits. It says observe proper measure. It says restrains oneself. It says also transiven, mixed correctly, mixed in due process, regular, rule, govern, manage. So yeah, and all those are synonyms to being balanced. All right. If you're mixing something in its right consistency, you're balancing it out. All right. It says time, season. It says stretch. Yep. That's going into temporary. But tempered also can, basically goes into being balanced, being the right amount or the right proportion, which means in the scriptures talks about, it says what? Be not ye overly wicked, nor overly righteous. You're supposed to live a balanced lifestyle. All right. Let's look at that in the book of Galatians. This is Galatians chapter 5 and verse 22. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, which was one of the synonyms of temperance. It says goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. All right. Against such there is no law, So let's look at the word temperance in the Strongs. It says self-control. See, it says the vital of one who masters their desires and passions, his sensual appetite. So what things that you want to do, but it might not be feasible. Let's say you just want to lounge around watching movies, or you're sleepy, you just want to sleep or relax all day, but you understand that what you have to, you can't govern your life like that. You have a job to do. You should be, studying, you should be doing videos, or you should be watching videos. All right. Let's say let's say you need to lose some weight. Let's say you're a little too big. All right. Hey, it means you need to watch what you eat. All right. You can't just sit here and eat cookies and cakes and fried chicken, and burgers and French fries all day. You know, you need to make some lean proteins. You need to make some vegetables. All right, drop the carbohydrates for a minute. Take some vitamins. All right, drink some water. Substitute your drinking for water, because really, to be honest, what leads to a lot of overconsumption is that fucking the sugary drinks, juice and shit like that. And pop if you drink it. Which you shouldn't be drinking pop anyways, but if you do, all that shit is packed with sugar. And all those things is detriment to your body. All right. But yeah, what leads, what one of the main cause for leaving for over consuming calories is really drinks. You drink a cup of coffee in the morning, which your cup of coffee probably got anywhere between 200 to 300 calories. And that's if you make it at home. And I ain't even gonna mention how if you buy it from Starbucks or you buy it from one of these coffee shops or whatever. You buy from one of these coffee shops, you're looking at a price a 600 to 700 calorie drink. And that's just a drink. Not even mention if you go get some food afterwards. And then what you drinking with your what are you drinking with your food? You might be drinking a fucking Powerade or some or a juice or some lemonade or whatever. All that sugar and all that shit counts. It stores in your body, and it and then eventually you look up and you get overweight. You be looking a little big. But that's neither here nor there. But basically, temperance is going into what? Balancing out your lifestyle, having self-control, having self-restraints, not overindulging in something in too long. You're living a balanced lifestyle. You give a little time for this, you give a little time for that, you give a little time for, your daily activities. Let's say, you need to, hit the gym more. You give a little time for the gym. You give a little time for studying. You give a little time for watching videos. Then you give a little time for your hobby. If you got a woman, you give her you give her some time. And if you got a job, you give, your job the time. And then when and then what? You probably relax a little bit, give some more time for yourself. And then you might, then you might go to sleep and start the day over. But you're not sitting there overindulging in just one activity all day. And that can even go for studying. Now we understand that studying, watching videos, being, trying to be in the spirit as much as possible is a good thing. But the scriptures talks about, uh, 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 uh being overly righteous, and making it says many books maketh the weariness. So what I'm trying to say, it's good that you study. It's good that you watch the videos. It's good that you get into the scriptures, and you get into the scriptures as much as possible. But you even have to watch that sometimes. But you're supposed to balance everything out. That's the main point that I'm getting. Now if you can, now if you're much an older brother, that can, you might be able to because me personally, I watch videos majority of the day. I can watch videos all day actually. And there's nothing really, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what if that's what your spirit, clings to, that's a good thing. All right. But you don't want to get to the point where, everything's going to vex you. You go into the world and, things is vexing you. You see a fucking moe or a fucking woman out of order, or something might just vex you, but you understand that you have to keep a certain conduct about yourself. All right. Not over here, turning your nose up or let's say you had a job and you got a fucking a Sambo coon, kissing up to the Esau, you over here saying, this place gonna be destroyed, you gonna be right along with it, and, basically just doing too much. All right. We understand, we understand that what you go out, you teach, you make videos, we understand this place is gonna be vexing, but you're supposed to be living a double life. All right. You're not supposed to be going out, and trying to change the world, and so to speak. You're going out and trying to like establishing your own righteousness. You see a Mo and you go push him down the stairs or whatever, you know, or you see a woman talking back to her man and you just go and rough up a little bit. You're not supposed to go out and establish your own righteousness. You're supposed to keep a level mind, keep a level head. All right. Just live your, I ain't gonna say technically live your life, but just do what you need to do as far as your responsibilities. If you have a woman, if you got kids, take care of your kids, take care of your house. Go out on highways and byways, make your videos, and just maintain until the Lord comes back. All right, that's why I calls us. That's why I call this word patience. Because each single one of us brothers is waiting for the Lord to appear. All right, each single one of us brothers are waiting for the Lord to crack them clouds in order to in order to execute vengeance upon His will. And that's what every single each one of us brothers is waiting for. Best believe we ready for this place to go down. We ready for all hell to break loose. We ready for judgment to be passed out. But we got to understand that one thing is that the Lord, we have to wait on the Lord to do all these things. All right, we can't get too eager and start moving just yet. All right. But another thing, another aspect of that too is, man, you're not living just in complete in your complete folly. Now we all have folly. There's nothing wrong with it. This is just something, whatever hobby. You might like watching comedy movies. You might like fucking what is it? You might like playing video games. You might like what is it? You might fucking like social media. You might like watching funny skits, on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube Shorts or whatever. You might like watching cartoons, whatever your niche is, man. You're not supposed to indulge in that too much neither. Give that some, you give it a little bit of time. You give that little bit of time of your day, but just, for you just to sit there and do, you just indulging in your folly, man. That's not healthy. You won't have a healthy mindset. You're not being temperance. You're not showing self-control. You're not showing balance. All right. Or it says what to master his desire and passions. When you master your desire and passions, means what you can have control over it. When you only do it when you feel like doing it. But you understand that you have other things to do too. So you just don't sit there and indulge in it. All right. That might be the next word I'm gonna look up. Indulge. All right. Basically, you just sitting there and doing it all day. You watching TV all day. You on your phone. You on TikTok. Which all those things comes with spirits on them. Those all comes with spirits, and you have to recognize when you got a demon on you, or you got to recognize when you got a spirit on you. You got to rebuke it. Okay. And it's a daily fight, man. I still deal with it. We all gonna keep dealing with it. All right. We all gonna keep dealing with it, and we have to rebuke it and keep and move forward and move better the next day. But it's something we us brothers, we're gonna fight daily. To try to stay in the spirit, to try to keep our appetites. Things that we like to do. Keep our appetites up under subjection, up under control. And that all goes back to what? Discipline, man. It all goes back to temperance. All right. It all goes back to temperance, being temperate. Let's look up let's see what the Geneva Study Bible says about it. It says, least that any man should obtain at least any man should object that Paul plays the deceiver as one who urges the spirit urge nothing but that which the law commands. He shows that he requires not the literal or outward obedience, but spiritual, which proceed not from the law, but not from the law, but of spirit of Mashiach, who gives us new birth, ought to be rulers and guiders of our life. All right. Doesn't really hit to the point, but fruit of free will, but only as they forth. And it doesn't really hit to the point that I thought it was, but a good scripture, nevertheless. I'm gonna read it over. It says, but the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness. It says good. It says goodness. It says goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. So those are the fruits of the spirit. And if you and you abide in all of them, then you're abiding in the spirit. you know. But all right, that's basically all I had. That's all. I just wanted to make it real quick. Again, the word Slovakia. Again, the word is temperance. Word again is temperance. All right, which means sobriety, discretion, self control. All right, self restraints. To be balanced. It says observe of a balance or a moderate course of action. So you're balancing out your life. You're not indulging in too much or too little. All right, you're getting everything. It's proper necessities of your attention. So, Lord willing, I hope this video was edifying. Until next time.